Hello, I am Mac, at least for a day, and everything's going to be okay. This is going to be part two of my conversation with Lord Markov. I forgot to mention that if you are interested in doing an interview with me, you have to be on PlayStation because I don't have the ability to record voices and put them in a video on anything besides PlayStation. But if you're interested, message me on PSN. I'm Mac4Day on PlayStation, and you can send me a friend invite too if you want. And I will talk to you about being in an interview. So without further ado, here's Lord Markov. What do we have to talk about next?
Well, I thought we would talk a bit deeper about villains. My
Okay.
one of my two things on my wish list that hasn't really been addressed since the game came out. Um, and so, yeah, last time we talked a bit about how that can work with um, the new station cores or system control mechanics that might be coming. But to talk a bit deeper, there are avenues I think that No Man's Sky can take to add in a villain easily. Obviously, in the lore, we have a lot of mention about a corruption, like a virus being introduced to the Atlas. And so, my first thought was, well, that's the monstrosities that we've been seeing, and things along those lines. But perhaps maybe it is something else. Maybe it's a new breed of Sentinel. It would be easy to introduce, so we could have Sentinel systems that have like new, tougher ships and uh, maybe bipedal. I know this has been suggested a few times, but bipedal Sentinel types. Um, Also, thinking along the lines of the monstrosities, perhaps they come from a place and only like a rift coming from a different dimension of some sort. And so all we've seen so far are just the small bits of corruption that can go through, and the really, Cthulhu-esque stuff is waiting to come through. And along those same lines, thinking, okay, those would also, infest certain systems. So you could still choose to go there or choose to mainly avoid them if you want. Um, and then, of course, there's also, if you want to go with story elements, we could talk about the first spawn coming back. Somebody does an experiment to counteract those nanites that, well, I'm kind of spoiling here, but the Korvax had influenced the population to change. Well, perhaps that could be technologically undone, and all of a sudden we have a very militaristic Gek first spawn out there, and so actually that would use even fewer assets to introduce into an update than the other two that I just described. What do you think?
Yeah, first of all, you mentioned different types of sentinels. We
Yeah,
have the corrupted sentinels, but problem is they haven't really done much with them. There's basically
right.
just two ways that you can spawn corrupt sentinels. There's a Nexus mission, helping a stranded life form, and if you dig up the special type of buried satellite devices, and you can spawn corrupted sentinels when you're trying to get loot out of those.
Mhm.
Um, they could really expand on the times that we meet corrupted sentinels and finally give an explanation for why they exist. It's strange that just in one update they created corrupt sentinels but never explained why they're corrupted, why they exist. There needs to be some kind of storyline explaining where they come from and why they're different from other sentinels, and they could expand on them like you said, and we could get corrupted quadruped sentinels,
You got my thought.
corrupted sentinel walkers, corrupted sentinel ships, corrupted sentinel motherships. All of those we have as normal sentinels, but we don't have any corrupted versions of them. Like there could be a whole storyline with this armada of corrupted sentinels suddenly coming into existence and being a threat to the entire universe. Because sentinels usually protect planets, but the corrupted sentinels could start destroying animals and plants and stuff like that, and we would have to
And
defend
building
the
their own
universe from
cities.
them. Yeah. And then the other thing you said was the Gek first spawn. It so happens that in the lore for frigate missions, like whenever you debrief a frigate mission, there is, a bunch of different lore that's basically just flavor text that they wrote to make it interesting that seem as though the frigates were actually out on missions that had stories that they came back with and stuff. But one of them that somebody told me about, or I read on social media, somebody got one of these stories is when they were debriefing their frigate, it said that the Gek first spawn was returning. There was an actual lore entry when the Gek first spawn came back. Now, I don't think them being technologically or genetically changed back. I mean, I guess that could happen, but I think it would make more sense if there was a time warp and a bunch of Gek first spawned that were maybe sent in the future during those wars, like the Sentinels somehow created a time warp to destroy some of the Gek first spawn, and they ended up in our time or something like that. Like that could be another storyline where we have to fight the Gek's first spawn. It could be all, it could be all together, like the corrupted Sentinels becoming corrupted. Like maybe they would create the time warp that would bring the Gek first spawn. So then we'd have multiple different groups that we'd be fighting in this new crazy storyline thing. But I mean, all of this is very unlikely to happen, but it would be awesome if it did, because we could definitely
Yeah,
use a bigger storyline that you know would give us a lot more to do in the game.
yeah,
But
definitely more interaction. And I think you touched on it right there. Just more, more activity, more interaction. Just a bit more depth into our investment in what's going on. Um, whether that be enemies, whether that be controlling systems. But I think we've touched on it right there. I mean, that's the one thing I think overall No Man's Sky needs is just that, because there's a lot going on. I mean, there's a lot of variety, there's a lot of different things to do, but it does, most of it doesn't have a lot of depth. And so I think adding those villains, those ways to control a system for whatever reason, could be a good vehicle for that. Um, I know that another thing is, the big question mark of pirates. They're in every system. Why don't they have their own freighters? Why don't they have bases? Um, you know, where are these pirates coming from, and how do they stop my ship?
yeah,
There's a big question mark, and so that kind of feeds into this whole villain thing too, because there are some mechanics there that they can add to the game that I think would be easy now that they've updated the game as they have. We now have NPCs that walk around, so why not NPCs that have a multi tool that can fight back or fight with you? You know, uh, the mechanic of having a mercenary follow along with you for so many minutes, or what have you, or mercenary fighter pilots. So you form kind of a wing and go against that corrupted Sentinel mothership that we just speculated. Things along those lines. But having that mechanic also would suggest that you could go after pirates, meaning, invade their bases. Perhaps maybe another avenue for a dungeon, let's say, would be clearing out a pirate base.
yeah. It so happens. Wait, I thought it was you that told me that you found a pirate base in one of the random space encounters. Was that you or was that someone else?
It was me. I think I
Yeah,
sent you a picture of it as well. It wasn't something you could board. It was something you can
yeah,
shoot at from space, and that was about it. So it just kind of like another visual curiosity.
yeah. Exactly. Much like how we had wrecked freighters in space in the living ship update before we had derelict freighters, they could do that. They could do more updates like the Desolation where they make some of those random encounter objects into dungeons. So the emergency colony thing. There's this one thing that I found several times where supposedly it's a colony of people that escaped into space on this sphere. They could make us land on those, and that could be a type of dungeon. It could be like a vault in the Fallout games like that, where this race escaped in this space station, but something went wrong, and now they're zombies, or things like in derelict freighters that killed them, and now I've got to investigate what happened. It would be a totally new layout. It would look different than a derelict freighter on the inside. And then, like you said, the space pirate bases, we could go in and fight the space pirates. I wish Hello Games would get over their aversion to giving us humanoids to fight. It seems like they don't
Yeah.
want us to ever kill NPCs or fight anything humanoid. Like, only creatures and only floaty robots are okay to kill. You're not.
Yeah, perhaps. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, perhaps it has something to do with their rating for their game.
Yeah, I've thought about that, but I'm pretty sure there's other games that you can kill humanoids that are rated T for teen as long as they don't show blood. It's only when you have blood and gore that violence will get an M rating. Good example is Fortnite. You shoot people and their bodies fall over as if they're dead, but because there's no blood, it's got. I think it's rated T for teen. I'll have to look. And it's why a lot of parents are okay with the violence in it because there's no blood. So I don't know. Maybe Hello Game. Oh, yeah. Somebody did mention in a comment in one of my videos where I discussed this that it could be a problem with PEGI. PEGI is different. I'm always thinking about ESRB here in America, but the PEGI rating in Europe could be different. So maybe that's it. Is they're trying not to get a higher PEGI rating because it's more sensitive than ours is here. So that could be it. But anyway, it would be nice if we could fight space pirates on foot and things like that. But who knows?
Well, and so another thought there with the pirates is if they do have freighters, and we could perhaps board them as another avenue of getting a freighter. Also, perhaps there's the chance, depending on the conflict level, of the pirates boarding your freighter if you call it into a high conflict system, which would have you then paying more attention as to where you fly that in. Or maybe, if you're a battle monger, you fly it in intentionally.
Yeah, and failing being able to fight humanoids, it would be nice if they could let us join pirates. So much like how in some games you have the option to be a bad guy, if they added pirate bases, we could land on them and we could join the pirates, and that would change the dynamics of the game so that pirates wouldn't attack you usually. They probably would still because there's no honor among thieves, but maybe there'd be perks to being a pirate, and there would be downsides like um, you would lose trust from the other races, but sometimes when a pirate is hailing you, you could talk them down without paying them money. Right now, you have to pay them money to keep them from attacking you, but you would maybe have a small chance to talk them out of fighting you, or have a better chance um, if you are a member of the pirate faction and have gotten a lot of pirate standing. So it could be a new type of
Discount.
standing that you could increase pirate standing, but that would decrease your standing with the other races. And it might even get to the point where you aren't welcome on space stations anymore, and you would have to find an abandoned. That's probably what they could do, is they could make all abandoned star systems have pirate bases, and that's where you would have to go to trade and do everything that we do in the space stations now. If you like went full 100% pirate, you wouldn't be able to land on space stations anymore, and you'd only be able to go to pirate stations. Just an
I
idea there.
I like that idea, and especially since you could. Most people say, well, why would you make yourself an enemy to the other races? Perhaps there are lucrative perks going outside the law, like a cheaper black market tech.
Hmm.
Perhaps there are ship salesmen, of all of the ships that they've commandeered, and so that might be the perk. where you would be able to uh, maybe customize ships through a scrapyard that only the pirates have, perhaps. Just furthering that idea, but I do like it.
Yeah, definitely. Um, do you have much more topics to talk about,
I
or is
have one more, and it's a big
okay?
one. It's scenarios.
All right, let's go ahead and try to do it and get it in the rest of this video.
Sure. All right. So scenarios. So we have something at the anomaly that is almost entirely unused. This virtual reality generator, and we only use it for a small period of time in the Artemis storyline, and it just sits there. And it seems to me that that is the perfect vehicle for scenarios. Not only ones that Hello Games might build, like let's say the Battle of Corvax Prime or different things that we've heard from the lore, but perhaps it would also be a good avenue for players to make their own content, their own star systems and stuff like that. And so, my previous mentioned system controls would work right into that. Where if you are building a scenario, you can build those uh, types of systems, for kind of a scenario gameplay that you can then share with um, other players. Kind of in the ilk of Minecraft, if you will.
Yeah, another idea I had when you were saying that was in the past I've talked about my ideas for time travel that would allow us to go to the the home planets of the three races. The um, Balaron, I think, is the Gek planet, Corvax Prime, and then the Viking one, which I forget the name of. But that's an idea that I've thrown around a few times, that allowing us to go back in time and visit those places before they were destroyed, if they were destroyed. But what you said would make a lot more sense is that simulator thing that is on the space anomaly. That would be really cool if we could create scenarios and we could basically visit events in the past, historical events, and that would make sense why, like, we could experience the destruction of Corvax Prime. Like, there'd be an area, maybe it wouldn't be an entire planet, maybe it would be kind of a walled off area that we could explore and see what the Corvax civilization was like with all their technology and everything. It would basically be like a Cybertron planet, maybe, where everything is completely technological, like there is no nature anymore. Um, and maybe we could actually witness Corvax Prime being destroyed by the Gek, and then we would get taken out of the simulation at that point. Same with the Gek and Viking home planets. We could explore those places, maybe witness Herc and Null fighting each other, and then the Gek, we could witness the Gek enslaving the Korvax on their planet and everything that happened in the storyline involving that. Yeah, so that's just another idea I had from what you said.
Well, and then taking my thought further with the recent expedition where you can unlock the Normandy, made me think they No Man's Sky can be used for other sort of crossover events that might be able to be used in the scenario system. I've always thought that No Man's Sky, uh, with No Man's Sky, you could do Battlestar Galactica pretty well. Just going from system to system looking for resources, you're being dogged by, Cylons. It seems like it would work. And so there are many sci-fis that you could use No Man's Sky as kind of that sandbox to build that sort of thing. Obviously, the more cities you have, the harder it is to do a No Man's Sky because we really don't have those sorts of assets. But for something that, for sparser technology, like I mentioned Battlestar, but there are others that have like the more empty universe out there that No Man's Sky can be used to do, or like I said, player made content. You know.
Yeah, what I was thinking was expeditions. They could do a lot more with expeditions. Right now, it's just a list of objectives. They could have a lot more of a storyline where it could be a war, like in just that one expedition for a short period of time, there, say a war between the Gek and the Viking broke out, and we have to resolve that issue, and then it's over, and then it's just that one-time event in that expedition. And like you said, it could be a crossover thing, more so than the Normandy. The Normandy thing was just a bunch of lore that was alluding to it, but we didn't know that it was talking about Mass Effect at the time. And then at the end, we just get the Normandy. But if it was like more of a crossover where the entire expedition involves enemies or ships or objects from this other franchise, it would be more of a crossover than, you know, just that one little part where we get the Normandy. Great. So is that about it for the things you wanted to talk about?
Yep, pretty much. Although you reminded me, it was a shame that we couldn't actually board the Normandy. I
Yeah.
looked everywhere for a landing pad. But anyway.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that about does it for my conversation with Lord Markov for now. Thanks a lot for coming on and giving me some good ideas. And do you want to say
You're
anything
welcome.
before we end here?
Just thank you very much for having me on, and I'll see you all out there in the No Man's Sky universe.
Great. So I have been Mac, and this has been my friend Lord Markov. Thank you for joining us for a day. And remember, everything's going to be okay. Special thanks to my monthly supporters, Shell Owens, JSpot51, Shannon and Jeremy, Meg Payton, Renee McLeod. It's friends like you that motivate me to keep creating.